What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be taking a look at the APurvis Blades Progeny. Now, this one is the Mark III, the third generation of progenies that they have made, and furthermore, this is the Knifenuts Podcast edition. Let me see if I can get you close to that. Yeah, you can see it right there. So this is the Knifenuts Podcast edition. So let me give you a tour of the knife, and then I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then we can start with our review. What we've got here is a stone-washed, kind of semi-polished blade in a Warncliffe style. It's got a small swedge up here. It is M390. You can see it's right there. It is a 3 1/4 inch blade, which is kind of the sweet spot for me. And what you've got here is the pivot has this really nice engraving of the Knifenuts Podcast. It's a bit of a billboarding, but it's well done. And then you've got this inlay of carbon fiber. It's kind of gold yellow carbon fiber. Looks really nice. And then you've got the same thing in the back. It's a frame lock with you've got a lock bar insert that is an over travel stop. You got a Torx head screw. You got a milled titanium pocket clip, and that is kind of what you've got. So this is made by, well, it's designed by APurvis. I believe he's a firefighter, in collaboration with I believe his name is Elisha Isham. So they did the design in collaboration, but they actually have Bestek do the design or the production of this. I think that APurvis, he started doing some custom work, and then like so many others, they use either We or Riyadh or any of those to do their production. This one is done by Bestek. So what do we have? Let me. It's $350. So for whatever that's worth. But it is the Knifenuts Podcast edition. I believe that the regular edition is probably around $300, and then there's different grades. There's the only titanium with the inlays and all kinds of stuff. So let's start with the review. Let's start with ergonomics. And I think that ergonomically, it is very good. It's got this kind of weird shapes, and it's incredible to me how you would think that there's only so much they can do with the ergonomics of a knife handle, but man, this one fits my hands really well. You can feel the pocket clip, but the pocket clip, it doesn't have kind of sharp corners or anything like that, so you feel it's there, but overall it feels fairly good in my hand. I wear large gloves, and as you can see, I can get a full purchase on the knife. I still have even a little bit, so if you got large hands, this fits in your hands no problem. So then action. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me give you a size comparison. I told you the size, but I didn't give you the size comparison, so my bad. Let's get back to that. So that's the Para 2, and that's the Para 3. Paramilitary 2 and Para 3. So very much in the length of the Para 3. Okay, it's much more comparable in size to the Para 3. Although, as we all know, the sharpened blade length of the Para 3 is very small. But here is in profile. As you can see, it falls into a fairly nice and tight little package here. So let me give you size comparisons while it's folded. So that's the bug out. So as you can see, when it's folded, it's very much in the vicinity of the bug out. It seems taller, but it is not much thicker. It's a little bit thicker, but it's mostly because of the clip. But as you can see, it's not much thicker. So I think probably it's a little longer than the bug out. So in thickness and in carry, it's closer to the bug out. In length, it's closer to the Para 3. So there you have it. That's your size comparisons. I think if you like the carry of the Bugger, you'll enjoy the carry of this one. And if you like the real estate of the handle of the Para 3, I think you'll be happy with this one. So let's go back. Action. Action, it's okay. It's nothing to write home about. It's one of those where I find myself that my finger ends up landing in the lock bar, and when I'm touching the lock bar, I really can't deploy it. The detent just won't let me. It's one of those that you kind of have to train yourself to put your hands in the right location, and when you do, it deploys fairly well. The detent's pretty strong. When you try and use the thumb stud, it does deploy, but it takes a little bit more force than I would like. And closing, it's smooth, but it's not drop shot by any stretch. You can see, had this probably call it 2-3 weeks, or it's probably been used to about 2 or 3 weeks. But you can see it requires a little bit of shaking to get it to fall shut. So the action is okay, but I wouldn't say that it's one of the strengths of the knives. It's not what I would consider a fidget. You kind of have to think about where you're putting your hand, and the detent's pretty strong when you're trying to use the thumb stud deployment. Now, cutting's really good with this one. It's a hollow grind, so hopefully it's hard to show the hollow when they've done this kind of buffed stone wash finish that you see here, but hopefully it comes across as the hollow grind. So there's a hollow grind, and it comes down to a fairly thin edge. It came sharp, not as sharp as I would like. I think this probably would benefit from me taking it to my TS Pro for sharpening, but it comes down to a fairly thin edge. And because of it, for shallow utility cuts, it works fairly well. Let me try and see if I can show you blade thickness. So overall blade thickness, very much in the vicinity of the Para 2. Hopefully that comes across right there. I wouldn't call it the sliciest knife in the world, but yeah, I would say that for shallow cuts, most of the hollow grinds that I've reviewed are pretty good for shallower cuts, for cutting things on a cutting board, or a cardboard when it's flat. Once you start pushing through, this becomes kind of an average slicer. You don't have the sliciness that you get off a baguette, just because the blade thicknesses are dramatically different. Hopefully that comes across right there. So cutting, okay, decent. I think it'll do the job for EDC task. I don't think this is the sliciest for cardboard cutting all day. I don't think it's a robust blade. It's not thick enough, and it's got a fairly thin tip, so it's not a heavy user blade. It's kind of a light use EDC type carry is what I would say. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is made by Bestek, and I think that the fit and finish, I think they're not quite there. It's not quite in fit and finish of OEMs. I would say that Riyadh's at the top, and then you've got we, and it's fairly close between we and Riyadh, and then you've got Bestek down a little bit further. The transition between the carbon fiber and the titanium is fairly smooth, but you can feel where the transition happens. The inlay, it's a tad bit proud of the titanium. Okay, so that's one thing. The thing that bothers me the most is probably on the blade. I like when the transition between the grind and the flat is more sharply defined, and here it seems that they just took this blade to a buffing wheel and put it up against it, so you get the from the hollow to the flat, you got like this rounded corner. You've got this blade that is kind of polished, but it ends up looking a little bit cheaper than I would like. Okay, I think if they would have done you know, just the stone wash flats and the satin blade. I think that's what they did in the original Progenies. I think that would have been a better choice. This one, the blade, it looks a lot cheaper. It looks like I said, it looks like they took it to a buffing wheel and then just set until it polishes and looks shiny. And it is shiny, but I'm not sure I'm not sure it looks good. It's just it looks like a cheaper knife, and it's not a cheap knife. It's a $350 knife, but the blade doesn't look it. I think it needs some work. I do think that they did a good job with the ergonomics. I do like the job that they did with the backspacer. I think it's a titanium backspacer. I do the pocket clip works really well, and that's actually well done. It goes in and out of pocket quite well. I like the fact that they did, you've got your lock bar insert and your over travel stop. That's really, really good. It runs on bearings. So there are some positives of the fit and finish, but at this price point of $350, which is kind of the price point where a lot of the Riyadh knives are coming in. The Riyadh, it just feels like a different class of knife. This is the ugly little brother of what Riyadh can do, especially on the blade. Like I said, I think they kind of overdid whatever they did. I'm not saying that they did the buffing wheel. That's what it looks like to me. So airing of grievances, I think. Look. The fact that you have to think about where you put your hand to deploy the knife, that's kind of that's kind of a killer for me. And the reason for that is that I have a fairly large collection of knives, and because I have a large collection of knives, I put one in my pocket every day. I put a different one, and I can't be, if this is going to be your only knife, the only knife that you're going to have. Then you can grow used to putting your fingers in the right location to deploy the knife. But as it is, because I have so many other knives, I never get, let's say, extremely proficient at just one of them, and that's kind of a deal killer for me. I think this is gonna be sold, and the reason is. It's not because it's a bad knife. I think it's a decent knife, but because I like to fidget with my knives, and this one will not let me do that. Well, guys, hopefully this has been helpful. I don't think you can buy the Knifenuts Podcast edition anymore, unless I guess you buy it from me, or in the secondary market, I guess I should say. But I think that the Progeny is a decent blade. I would look for the one that has the satin blade, not this kind of semi-mirror buff stonewash thing. I would recommend that. It's not a knife that's gonna make it into any of my top 10s, or I think it's a decent knife. I think it used to be about $190, about $200, and I think that's probably the correct price point. $350. That's a bit much, and so I'll leave you with that, guys. If you got anything out of it, then like and subscribe, and until I see you next one, then take care.